So our speaker today is Bart Worden. Bart has been clergy leader for the Westchester Community for Ethical Culture since 1998. In addition, he has been a social worker who has worked with programs that help people recover from psychiatric disabilities. For 10 years, he was executive director of the American Ethical Union, which is the National Federation of Ethical Culture and Ethical Humanist Societies, before retiring that role in November of 2022. Bart will be moving into full retirement at the end of the month. And today's address, which he will present, is called Ethics as a Community Endeavor. And I think, as you know, this is Bart's final platform as clergy leader of our community. So welcome, Bart, and many thanks.
So with my departure coming soon, I thought it was a good time to reflect on how leadership might be managed by an ethical community. I've heard it said of other congregations that no longer had clergy leaders on staff, that they were leaderless. And I disagreed with that notion and still do. When I visited these places, it was clear that there were people leading, right? They were planning, they were setting goals, they were managing programs. They may not have had a professional leader on staff, but they had people leading, right? The leadership was different, but it wasn't absent. And I rather expect something similar will happen with this community in a few weeks after I retire. And I thought maybe this would be a good time to reflect a bit on the kind of things that the clergy bring to an organization like this that might be the things that you'll be bringing in the future, with hope, right? So that's really the plan here. I also thought it was probably helpful to talk a little bit about my decision to go. I know for some people it was surprising. I've been here 25 and a half, almost 26 years now. I started in July, I believe, of that year. And that's a long time for clergy. And I thought going into this that I'd be kind of in a clergy role in one organization and then in a clergy role in another organization, et cetera, right? Because there's a period of time at which it kind of makes sense to be there, and that seems to be around 10 years. And if you go much further than that, things start, to my mind, to become more and more complicated. And so when I hit my 10th year, I actually started figuring out what will happen for succession. So I started approaching people in the leadership committee about, could we get trainees in here to do internships so that, you know, we could kind of get used to other people, and then we can figure out what we might need to do in order to bring another person in, et cetera, et cetera. And those things actually didn't quite go anywhere. So time went on, and there he is 25 years later, here I am. And which is fine. The good news about all that is this community is my love, right? In other words, well, sorry, I have other loves too, but we've been, Ruth Ann brought me into this, and we've been here. Well, for you, it's over 40 years, I'm pretty sure. And for me, it's like 30, coming on 39, is it? That's a long time. And it's a long time to be in love with a community. And so I'm certainly feeling that. At the same time, being clergy is taxing. As much as I've loved it, I've also suffered with it, to be honest. There's a level of expectation that comes with it that makes it difficult to feel like you can really be yourself in many situations. I remember one time I used the word crap during one of my talks, and I was taken to task for it by somebody who was in the community. I'm thinking, oh boy, this could be a long time, so, but that's just a small example, but there's so many other things, when there's interpersonal conflicts, I'm kind of drawn to them, but I'm not really allowed to be drawn into them, I guess, is the best way to put it. And so it really has impacts down the way. But the biggest one, my sense, the role of clergy is to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. And the afflicting the comfortable part is something that I've been pretty comfortable with, and I imagine a few people in this room have been afflicted at times, right, by me, and I think that is really an important part of this. At this stage in my life, though, it's not something that I'm cool about. I just feel like there's so much discomfort in this world, and I would much rather focus on that end of it. And I need to be free to do that. I can't be held by the clergy role. So really, I'm not so much retiring from this ethical society as I am retiring from clergyhood. And retiring into what I'm hoping will be a period of my life that will give me more and more opportunities to do things that people find comforting and healing. So music will be playing a big part of this, so certainly I'm going to nursing homes and things along those lines to sing. And there's other avenues that I'm hoping to pursue. And what I really love about it is when I'm singing, I feel I can really be myself, right? Because I'm choosing the songs, I'm choosing how to play them, all this other stuff, and I'm practicing along to get that authentic quality that is in there someplace that makes the songs come to life for me. And that is, I think, a beautiful thing to pursue. And I do encourage those of you who like singing and doing music and everything, try it out. See if it works for you too, because it really brings a nice quality to life. And I'm just really looking very much forward to finding more ways to explore those pathways. And that's really a lot of what I'm going to be doing when I'm not here. I guess the other question though is why though maybe I could retire and not leave. And to be honest, that really wouldn't be fair to either the community or to me, because my life has been so embedded here that there's no way for me to be here and not have all that embeddedness be right there, right in front of me. And so I really do feel the need to kind of let go and set sail a bit and see kind of what that's like. And I guess that means you'll be setting sail too. And I did want to share a few things that I thought might be helpful for your own journeys as you go forward. And there's two sets of three elements that I think are really important to keep in mind. And I'm trying to figure out whether I want to talk about the how first or the what first. What's easier? Let's go for that. Right. So the three basic functional areas that I'm going to say religious organizations really would do well to pursue, especially ethical communities would do well to pursue. And those are inreach, outreach, and service. Right, those three things: inreach, outreach, service. So what is inreach? Well, we got inreach right now, right? When you have people coming together inside the building and you're talking with each other and talking to people in your own community, to my mind, that's inreach. You're looking to reach into people's lives in a way that helps move the community into a place of ethical deliberation and consideration and hopefully commitment, right? Inreach. All the things that we do internally with the folks who come into this building, I would call that inreach, right? So outreach, of course, is outside of the building. And we do outreach, right? We do all the social media things, et cetera, and we try to advertise and all those things. It's really important, though, to realize that when you're doing outreach, what are you doing? You're looking to connect with people outside of your community. Because in ethical culture, that is a vital aspect of life, right? If we're talking about, well, our job is to elicit the best of others and through that process, elicit the best of ourselves as well, and to find ways for the unique worth of individuals to see the light of day and be, evident, That means getting outside of the room and doing stuff with other people, not just with ourselves, right? Outreach involves not just sending out a message saying, hey, we're having this meeting, come join us. It really means getting involved in the community outside, which brings to the third piece of service, right? So it's not enough just to say things to ourselves or to go out and say things to people out in the world. There needs to be purposefulness. It needs to have ethical meaning in order for it to really fit who we aspire to be. Service. Service needs to be a huge priority for us, right? In terms of what we're here for, what we're here to do, and the choices that we make about going forward. Now, there's obviously overlap with these things, right? You can imagine there'd be things that would be inreach, outreach, and service all wrapped up in one. Day of Deeds comes to mind for that, right? So we have all these service projects. We're telling people outside about it, come to our service project day and do this. And we're really getting our own membership up and riled up and ready to do this stuff, right? So that's doing all three. Thing is, you need to keep devoting time and attention to all three, and it's important to do that. And people tend to gravitate more towards one or two of them than they do all three. And so what's important there is to think for yourself about how you might be in a position to provide some leadership around one or more of those areas, or one or more projects within those areas, maybe. And also how you might find ways to support those things as well. Sorry. I know calling on volunteers to do more is always a risky business, isn't it? But that's what I think it's going to take. You know, people will really need to figure out how can they exert leadership in different places. And how can they support those people who are exerting leadership? And it's especially true right now because we have a situation where we have kind of different communities visiting us at different times and for different things, right? So we have game nights, we have our community discussions, we have pancake breakfasts, we have invited guest speakers and things along those lines. And we tend to get different groups of people coming out for those things. And so that means when we're trying to figure out how we are as a whole community, there is the extra challenge of how do we have a level of cohesion across the board that helps us feel like we are one organization and that we are working together toward a common pathway forward. Now, getting that to happen is the dicey part, right? Because people, first of all, if people step up and do stuff, most people I find don't have the sense that they have unlimited time and resources to put to these kind of things, right? So they're trying to move things along. And what is the adage? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. I think there is a tendency, because we're often having to go fast, that we wind up doing a lot of things solo, or maybe in pairs, but there's probably a lot of solo activity that goes on. And the downside of that, the upside, of course, is that it's really efficient, right? If you meet with yourself at home, you can knock it out in an hour or so. But if you start talking to other people about it, everyone's going to have an idea or whatever. And then you got to do all this, talking around different things, and you get into the weeds, et cetera, right? So you know that committees, can be black holes for sure. However, down the road, you need to have a sense of, a better word, posse, I guess, that is kind of supporting the effort and supporting the things that you're trying to do and trying to accomplish. So it's really important to support the things that happen here, even if it's not your cup of tea, right? Because this is a way that we can, as a community, move ourselves to a broader perspective, right? So that we can connect with a broader community of people and with a broader bunch of activities as well, right? Because that really makes a difference in terms of enlivening things and getting things to go better. There's where is this article? So in the New York Times recently, there was an article on it was the Nobel winner who liked to collaborate with his adversaries. Did anyone see that? It's about Daniel Kahneman, who's an economist. Um, One of the things that's really cool about him, I think, is that he just has a very he's dead now, but had a very curious mind. And when people challenged his ideas, he really liked that. And in fact, he would reach out to people who were challenging his ideas to say, well, what can we do about this? How can we understand why we came up with different conclusions? We're both scientists, right? Why are we having different conclusions? What can we do? And he says, there's a tendency for people to get into adversarial collaboration. This, or not really a tendency, this is a goal, right? When people who disagree work together to test a hypothesis, he says, they are involved in a common endeavor. They're trying not to win, but to figure out what's true. They might even become friends. Finding ways to work together with people who seem to be going in different directions than you expect or that you would like even, can really be a great thing, right? Because when you can understand, first of all, what's driving them to do that, and when you can find in your heart of hearts some attachment to that, you're really expanding who you are as a person and who you are as an agent for good living. Right? So that's the other three areas here that I was looking, the elements rather, I was looking, really have to do with when they're doing these examinations of people who had been through trauma, and what they found was helping them, and also what they found were issues that needed to be sorted out in order for people to get on with their lives. And the three areas that they really focused on were connections, emotional connections, a sense of safety, and a sense of self-regulation. Right? These are three elements that are really important for people that are trying to recover from really difficult experiences. But you know what? They're actually pretty good for everybody, right? Because in fact, these are universal things that are what help our life as human beings flourish, right? It's our connections with other people that enliven us. Sometimes they challenge us, sometimes they really piss us off, but they also enliven us. They also bring us into a real world, not just a world in our imaginations, right? Because when you have an emotional connection, emotions have a substance that that you can feel, right? So at the same time, developing that sense of safety is also kind of dicey, right? Because if you are really looking to connect with people that are just like you, not so hard, right? Because, hey, we're good together. How many times have you heard when you've been here, or have you even said when you came in here, where have you been all my life, right? It's been 20 years. I saw this building. I've been driving by it, and I decided to come in today. I'm so glad I came in. I've heard this over and over again over the years, right? Um, where have you people been all my life? Or why didn't I hear about you? This is so great, et cetera, et cetera. And what's happening there, to my mind, is that people are finding a group who are also feeling a bit like outliers, right? Not quite matching with the popular culture. And it's just such a relief to find somebody that you can kind of let your hair down a little bit with and just kind of feel comfortable, right? And that's really cool. I got to say, that was really an important thing for me in my first days here. And actually continues to be an important thing. The other side of it is, if you have a lot of that strong feeling of, oh, we're outliers and we're all together, et cetera, it's a little bit hard for people to come into that. right? So first of all, you're just saying we're a home for outliers, which isn't terrible, but isn't quite what an ethical community is meant to do, right? We're meant to be more than just a club for people who are outsiders, right? We're meant to be an organization that pursues ethical living in a robust and energetic way, right? And that takes checking in with people that you maybe even disagree with strongly. Who knows? But finding a way to have safety around that, that's a challenge, right? So that's the thing that really is important to work on, right? Trying to keep the emotional intensity in a place where people can continue to listen to each other, even when what they're saying isn't in agreement, right? Where's that? John Fox, when someone deeply listens to you, people probably heard this. When someone deeply listens to you, it's like holding out a dented cup you've had since childhood and watching it fill up with cold, fresh water. When it balances on top of the brim, you are understood. When it overflows and touches your skin, you are loved. When someone deeply listens to you, your bare feet are on the earth, and a beloved land that seemed distant is now at home within you. Good listening provides a safe space for people to share. Focusing on listening is as important as it can be. I know we all like to talk, but listening is incredibly important. And that brings us to the self-regulation, right? In order to listen, you have to find some way to park some of the things that you might otherwise be saying, are you nuts? That sucks. You're terrible, et cetera, right? All those kind of things, that the criticisms, the judgments, et cetera, they need to be parked. That is a basic part of self-regulation for surviving in community. It's putting things aside of it so that you can hear. And down the road, you'll have your chance, hopefully, to share a little bit of your own story and have someone deeply listen to you about that as well. But to start off, expect to listen. Expect to take the time to get to know someone, to hear more about what is driving them to do the things that they do, right? That's incredibly important. So those are the 6 things, all right? So now for you, my questions are really more about what happens for you going forward? What are you prepared to do to bring things into a good place? Where are the areas where you feel comfortable exerting more leadership, pursuing your own initiatives in ways that match up with what the community is trying to do? And in what ways are you prepared to listen to the leaders who are trying to make things happen and find ways to be supportive of those efforts? I think those are the 2 key things that will make a big difference for our community going forward. So I hope you find really hopeful and wonderful answers to those questions. So I'll leave you just to say that this has been one hell of a ride for me. And I'm on the one end relieved to be letting go. I was figuring out I probably have given now 200 and some odd addresses. And I just never thought of myself as having someone who had that much to say. And maybe I just didn't. So anyway, so there is some sense of not writing another platform for a while is really nice anyway. But I'm going to miss my communicate here. And I just thank you so much for all the love and support that you provided all these years. Thank you.